I think you were like ending college and then like we're about to go to Oxford.
Yes.
And then I was still in college because I'm younger than Cristina. You can, if you take a really close look, you'll be able to see the how I do look a bit younger. No, I'm just kidding. You look so young. It's so unfair. Hey, you guys. I'm Alessandra Conti.
And I'm Cristina Conti Pineda.
And we are celebrity matchmakers at Matchmakers in the City. And we are so excited about today's video.
Story time!
Our origin story.
Where it all began.
Where it all began. So, for those of you who kind of follow Matchmakers in the City and have been watching videos, you know that we're an old school personal matchmaking firm. We've been in business for 9 years. You also know that me and Cristina are the co-founders and we are sisters, and we are 2 of the 7 matchmakers here at Matchmakers in the City. But one of the questions that we always get is, how did it all begin?
Right.
Where did it all begin? When have you been matchmakers for your whole life? Did you just start? Blah, 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 blah. So today we are here to share our story of origin.
Mm-hmm. It all began in a
Small town
of Mahwah, New Jersey.
Yes. Pretty close to New York City. So like, even though we kind of think of it as a small town, it's actually pretty close to New York City, about 45 minutes right outside of New York City. And really just like a suburban New Jersey town with very little to do aside from going to the mall. That was one of my favorite pastimes.
Right.
Movies, bar mitzvahs, teen clubs. That's really what there was to do in Mahwah.
Right, but ever since from a young age, Alessandra especially was very outward with her boy craziness. I think in kindergarten she had a crush on one of the boys in my first grade class. This was just, we were always very much in the romantic way. I don't know how at that age, but we were. And then we watched the movie Clueless, and that changed our lives.
So literally our life changer.
Because we could then, our friends who would say that they would have crushes on boys in the class, we could then make them over so that the guy would notice them. Alessandra and I, especially being influenced by the cast of Clueless, we just...
Yeah, like the cast of Clueless were like the original influencers.
Right.
Like, they were incredibly influential.
And Spice Girls.
And Spice Girls, yeah. Clueless, Spice Girls for sure were our influencers when we were younger. And we just felt as though we had this
je ne sais quoi.
Je ne sais quoi. Like, we got it. We're like, okay, you want, like, you know, this cute boy in the 2nd grade. We are going to give you a full-blown makeover.
Right, and the funny part about it is now we have a staff that does that.
Yeah.
So we partner with expert celebrity makeup artists, celebrity stylists, and celebrity photographers to do exactly what we did in-house.
Yeah, we used to do it in-house. Okay, literally in our house on Rockridge Road. So funny. But anyway, that really gave us our first taste of matchmaking, of makeovers, of all of that.
Right.
And so literally since then, I remember at bar mitzvahs, the bar and bat mitzvahs, the boys would be on one side and the girls would be on the other side. And then you would have me and Cristina who were like going up to the boys' side and being like, oh, you should dance with Stephanie. And so like we would set up our friends from a ridiculous young age.
Right, and people would come to us I was called Yenta, that was my senior nickname in high school.
Yeah.
We would set up people for prom, we would set up our mom worked in an all-boys Catholic school, so we would set up our friends, we would have parties where we'd invite our female friends and then the guys from the boys' school and make matches like that. So this is a whole history of us doing it and getting so much joy from seeing couples and
yeah, there was it's funny, so socially
Right,
there was
party-wise.
very little to do because we weren't, we were kind of these like 25-year-olds living in this small town in these like young bodies without IDs. So what we would do when we were in high school, we would rent out like different halls and we would throw these theme parties. We would invite like the all boys school and then we would introduce them to all of our girls, all of our girlfriends, and really we made some matches that ended up like staying together
Lasting.
for a really long time.
Right.
We had Halloween parties and the Sweet 16s.
Yes.
Yeah, like we did it all. We did all the parties that we could, but I just look back and I'm like, oh my goodness, like cringy.
Right.
But
right. College, we do the same thing, but we were separate places. So Alessandra was in.
We were separated.
Right. We
So,
would
like,
visit each other.
Yeah,
but-
so we would visit each other. And like our magic power of matchmaking works best together. Truly, it works best together. So when we were separated, like we were still amazing matchmakers, but there's something about like the yin and yang of me and Cristina that as matchmakers, we just like work so well together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's a calling that we have
Yeah.
to work with each other
Yeah.
and together. We do also, I have to say, come from a line of matchmaking parents.
Yes.
Our mom had tried that with me a few times actually.
Yes, yeah. Our mom tried to set Cristina up a number of times.
Yes.
And it didn't quite work. But that was a really pivotal moment. So one
It
of
was
the
a
times
seed, Alessandra.
that was a seed. Oh my gosh. Yes, it
She
was a little
planted a seed.
She planted a seed, a little seedling, and we watered it. But it was so crazy. So our mom tried to set Cristina up when this was once we were like out, just had got like we're in college. I think you were like ending college and then like we're about to go to Oxford.
Yes.
And then I was still in college because I'm younger than Cristina. You can, if you take a really close look, you'll be able to see the how I do look a bit younger. No, I'm just kidding. You look so young. It's so unfair. So she set them up. Somehow I went on the date as well. Why was I on the date?
I think it was just so confusing. We were supposed to be meeting at one location, but then we realized that was in a gas station.
Oh God. I went to the mall and then I went to, it was like an outdoor mall and then we had like, I was like, just I'll come and check in about 10 minutes. So you'll have some alone time with him. And then if you're not jiving, like just like rub your nose or something like that. And
Please do not try that at home.
No, do not try that at home. That is the worst. This is not advice.
No.
Okay, this is young. We were like 19 and 21.
Right.
Like, so we were very, we didn't know any better. I remember, and so I came in and you like gave me the signal, and so I then ended up on the date.
That's
and
true.
the thing was with this guy though, as we were leaving the date, he was, oh my God, bless his heart, the most awkward young man like in existence, super awkward, like, but he had the
raw materials that will make an amazing date, an amazing man, an amazing husband.
Absolutely. And we saw that
We saw
in
the
him.
potential.
We saw his potential and we were like, oh my gosh, if only like he needs to lean into this like European look that he has, because he was wearing these like baggy like jeans, like I think they were jorts and like sneakers and just was like not like groomed properly at all. And we were like, he just needs a manscaping and he needs to work with a stylist. Like he has the money to pay for help from like two really fun, cool girls that would be able to tell him what, like he never had a sister, so how would he know this stuff? So that's when that seed was planted of like, oh my gosh, we should start a matchmaking company. So Cristina then went and did her master's at Oxford in England. I was in Washington, D.C. finishing up my bachelor's degree. I would always just say to her, Cristina, like, honestly, don't even worry. Worst case, let's just move to LA and start a matchmaking company. Like, let's just move to Beverly Hills and start a matchmaking company. That was it, but it was kind of like a funny thing. It was kind of like, oh, don't worry, like, screw it all. Let's just move to LA and start a matchmaking company. So once you graduated, we then like made a plan and we said, let's actually do it. Like, let's move to LA and let's just start a matchmaking company. It would be so fun. And 9 years later, we can say that that's exactly what we did. The thing with moving to LA, you know, I knew nothing about Los Angeles. Like, especially growing up on the East Coast, our city was New York City. Right. And that's what we thought of, like, we grew up on Sex and the City, watching Sex and the City. So there was a time period when I thought that the dream was to live in New York City, be fabulous, all of that, be like the girls from Sex and the City. But then it shifted because, like, LA is so fabulous. I was highly influenced by the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and just really,
and
like,
the Hills also.
And the Hills. Oh my God. The biggest influence
yeah.
was the Hills. And they were like, at that time, they were a little bit older than us and they had done the whole like being 20 in Los Angeles. And so I would watch the Hills and that was where I got all of the ideas of like, okay, so when we moved to LA, where did the girls from the Hills live? Okay, they lived at the villas. Awesome. So like I would literally like research it and I said, perfect, we'll live here. This is where we'll live, Cristina. If it's good enough for the girls from the Hills, that's good enough for us. And like, where did they go? And I had like all the different places that they would go and like where they worked. And so we then ultimately both moved to LA. And we moved to the apartment that the girls from the Hills lived in the first season. So upon arriving in LA, we didn't know anybody. You met a few girls at the pool. When we literally arrived in LA and you came a few days earlier than I did.
Weeks, yeah.
Yeah, and so you like went to the pool and at that time, like the Villas pool was such a young Hollywood scene. And so you then ended up meeting this group of girls and they were like the Italian girls, remember?
Yes.
They were really
but also
into clubbing.
Friend.
Yeah, and a Brazilian, good friend.
Wonderful friend.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And they were really into clubbing, really into going out, and that's what we were into as well. So and that's also, as we came to LA, when we got there, we hit the ground running. We created our business plan. We were like, okay, we're matchmakers. Now we need to find matches. So we would go to all of these different clubs. We'd go to all of these different events. I ended up meeting a friend. Like we used our networks so incredibly. And it was always like a friend from the East Coast would introduce me to a friend from the West Coast. Mm-hmm. And then I would end up going to brunch with them or something like that. And then they would be in PR. Like one of my girlfriends was in PR. So then she invited us to all of these fabulous Hollywood red carpet events. And that's really how we kind of broke into this Hollywood scene. And we were there and we would literally go and we would be like, yes, I'm a matchmaker. And it was so wild. And we started really with just one client.
Right, in a small office in Beverly Hills.
Mm-hmm. It just snowballed. Mm-hmm. And it started with one client and we were doing everything. And then it snowballed so organically that every couple months we'd be like, okay, we have a lot of clients. We need to add a team member.
Right, we need to outsource this expert session to someone else because we were doing all the wardrobe.
We were doing all of it and it was so much fun, but like we were only two people and we couldn't do it all. So we learned that our expertise was in matchmaking and date coaching. That's where we were the experts
and running the
business, running the show. Mm-hmm. So that's what we learned. That's what our expertise is, and that's what we will always do. And then also recruitment and scouting and going to events, going to parties, being social. As we grew, we then hired another matchmaker. Then we hired another matchmaker. Then we hired hired another matchmaker. So the company just grew so organically because with every new client that we got, we then would make a great match, and then it would be, oh, their friend was referred in. Oh, great, make another great match. Oh, their 3 friends are. Oh, okay, now we're finding dates. Oh, this person wants to be a client here, and then so it just grew so organically.
There's not a magic potion that you take. It's hard work every day. It's just having a very strong work ethic, caring a lot about what you do, having God's blessing, obviously. And
we pray all the time.
Right, we do. We just went for it.
Yeah.
And then you just continually see the fruits of your labor.
Yeah. And we were so lucky also. We were so blessed and lucky because our first office, so we were like, if we're going to do this, we're doing it big, we're doing it right. So the first office that we got was in the middle of Beverly Hills in the Golden Triangle. That was our first office. It was this little adorable office. We would come in every day. We would do all of our work. We would do all of our meetings, all of our phone calls, all of our in-person meetings, all of that. And it was amazing because when you're in Beverly Hills and that's your headquarters, you're a part of the community. So every event that we would go to, we're like, oh, we'll walk down the street to the Lux Hotel right on Rodeo Drive. And we just happened to then meet the attorney that then we set up with our client, who now they live in a beautiful mansion in Malibu. Or like, so it just, the types, and then also the celebrity matchmaking element to things. It's really cool because we are in LA, and when you're in Beverly Hills and in Los Angeles, it's almost like you can't help it but work with people who are in the public eye.
It's true.
Like, it's such a natural thing because a lot of people that we work with are indirectly or directly like linked to the entertainment industry. Right. So that's where then we started getting a lot of celebrities that would come to us, and it's a very different kind of way of going about things when you're working with high profile people or whatever, but it's also something that we've really been specialized in over the past 9 years. As we got bigger, and sorry I'm talking so much, Cristina.
That's okay.
But as we kind of got more clients, we then started getting people who lived in different cities who wanted to work with matchmakers in the city who wanted to work with us. So that's why now we have service areas not only in LA, but in New York, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C. as well.
Exactly. And we travel all those cities frequently. Yes. And we have members actually all over the U.S. and all over the world.
We had a wedding in London. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
We did. Actually, something when we met Patty Stanger, the Millionaire Matchmaker, a number of years ago, one of the things that she said was the fact that you recruit is so different than 99% of other matchmaking companies, and it's an integral part of a business. That's why we continually have such incredible matches and marriages, and it's vital to the success of our company.
Totally. And as soon as the world opens again, I'll be out at every event meeting all those men. No, not for me, but just for the clients. But yeah, and then kind of to bring you up to speed, now we're here. Our headquarters is still in Los Angeles. I dabbled with living in New York City because we have so many clients and I was traveling there all the time. It wasn't for me. I am a LA girl through and through, as are you, I believe. I think we've been converted to the LA way. And we now have a team of 7 different matchmakers, and they're truly, like, we learned also throughout the years that you can't just set up, you can't just put an ad out on Indeed and then get a matchmaker.
Right, expect quality matchmakers and hire them.
You can't do that. That's not the way it works.
No, it's a very...
We tried and we failed.
Yeah.
At that.
Right.
We failed miserably.
It was a very stressful time.
It was a really stressful time.
But nothing was impacted with our clients.
No, of course we were so involved. But we were working at 150% because we were trying to make up for the ineptitude of these matchmakers that were not real matchmakers. So as we have now having been in business for 9 years, we know the value value and the importance of having an incredible team of matchmakers. And so the matchmakers that are at Matchmakers in the city right now, each of them, I mean, literally go on our website and read their bios. They are next level, phenomenal. And then even to take it a next step, meet with them and you will be like, oh my gosh, like you are amazing.
Yeah.
Like you're an amazing
diamonds,
matchmaker.
Diamonds in the rough.
Yep.
We've searched.
We've searched. We have searched.
And also our experts are the top in their field, and we've tried.
The experts have always been amazing though.
Right.
But yeah, so it's been an incredible journey, and I think for any like young entrepreneurs or even not so young entrepreneurs, it takes a lot of grit, a lot of passion. It also takes a lot of humility because, like I said, some things just won't work out the way that we were told are, oh yeah, like you need to hire somebody, this is the way you go about doing it. That doesn't work. So there's a lot of trial and error, especially in the first few years. But once, I mean, for us, we were just so lucky because it was such an organic growth.
Right. And courage is another thing, and that's what I'm saying to everyone who's single who's listening to this. If you have courage to put yourself out there, I didn't want to go to events initially. Alessandra probably didn't want to either. It's hard. You have to push yourself to do these things because they're outside of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you, if you push past the fear, I mean, imagine just moving to LA, not really knowing anyone. That's a big step.
Yeah.
But we pushed past the fear, and because we felt like this is what
we were
knew.
called.
We were called.
Called to do this,
and we stepped out, and now we are so excited to have such a thriving matchmaking company.
Oh my gosh, we're so blessed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny because I always say, like, there are certain areas of my life that I'm not sure about. Like, the one thing I'm 1,000% sure about is that I'm doing exactly what I was meant to do on this earth. Like, I know we're bringing people together that would have never met before. And most importantly, we're helping people realize, realize what's going on, what's kept them single, and we're helping them make the changes so that they can actually be ready when we introduce them to such an amazing person. But anyway, you guys.
With that, we are going to let you go. We will see you next time in our next video.
Yes.
Please feel free to write any comments below or questions that you have, things you want us to do videos on. Subscribe so that you can keep getting the great content that we're going to give you. Send these to a friend if you feel like, you know what, this is a really great, inspiring story that will help my friend at this place in his or her life.
Yeah, or if they even just like the hills, like it's really fine. But thank you guys so much, and we will see you soon. Bye.